You've got it tuned to the Jupiter Joe Money Show. I'm Jenny Thomas, your co-host. We have Jupiter Joe, our host.
That's right.
And today's show is we're going to be talking about retirement. What's happening with retirement in today's world, the modern world?
Yeah, a lot of people are concerned, and rightfully so. The market is up, the market's down. The market's been very volatile, and people are either coming in and saying, "Hey, look, we've done really well this year," or "Hey, we haven't done that well." It depends on what you're in, right? Stock-wise and investment-wise, or what annuity you have. That's another thing we should talk about today is some people with older annuities. We had a client come in, and she had 3 older annuities, and they just had expired, and she was getting a terrible rate of interest, and the new rate of interest was even lower. And we got, not only did we get her a bonus, but we got her a better contract that's going to be what she's looking for, meets her goals. But today I have this article here, and I'm a firm believer in third-party information. I don't, look, can I write this stuff? Yeah, but it's so much better to read somebody else's stuff. It makes it easier on me. This study finds that Americans struggle to shift from retirement saving to spending in retirement.
Right.
So think about that. You saved your whole life. You worked 30 years at a company. You put all this money away, and now you have to figure out how it's going to last the rest of your life. Another 30 years, God willing, you live that long, right? Mm-hmm. And people have a true problem with figuring out how to do this, and that's why I know what we do is so good with annuities. But I'm just going to talk about what people are saying in this study. 71% of working Americans say they're reluctant to spend any money in retirement because they want to preserve their account. They want to preserve the money they have. 52% worry that they will regret spending too much money early on in retirement.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. And then 65% say the inconsistency of retirement expenses make it very challenging today, with inflation. Inflation's costing people everything, and look, you can't buy a car now for less than $40,000.
It's true.
I mean, even a little Toyota Corolla is like 30-some thousand bucks, so it's not like it used to be, folks,
Right. So today's show is a great one. Jupiter Joe Thomas. He's a financial advisor, retirement expert here in Florida. You've been doing it for over 25 years. And you're a regular guest on the Steve Kane show at Brian Craig. Great
That's
guy.
Right. Yeah.
He comes in to our studio here, and you also go to see him live on Fridays.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Brian Craig is instrumental in what we do to get our word out with clients and let them know how we work with clients. Mm-hmm. Another thing in this study, which was really interesting, we'll just talk about concepts. The top risks that contribute to people being reluctant to spend money is, number one, outliving their savings, and rightfully so. I read another article before this one about people worried about that 4% deal. Take 4% out. Your broker says take 4% out. That is not even close to working anymore. That's so old school. That's older than me. Okay, taking 4% out a year, it just does not work anymore for clients. So people are worried about running out of money. They're worried about future medical expenses. Medical expenses can be a huge deal for you, and it's a deal breaker. I mean, you could go through your life savings if you need nursing home health care, or somebody gets sick in the family and you have a disease or a chronic illness that Medicare may not cover. And you say, "Oh, well, it covers everything." No, it doesn't cover everything. There's plenty of stuff out there it doesn't cover. Me and your mom are learning that the hard way. Another thing is the reason people don't want to spend a lot of money in retirement is because they're worried about an emergency come up. How many people do we have that will come to us and say, we have $250,000 sitting in a checking account doing nothing? And I go, what's there for? Emergency. I go, what emergency costs $250,000? And they think for a minute, nothing, but it's there mentally for them to think about it,
I think some people think that they're worried about getting sued or something.
That too, and annuities, do protect you if you do get sued. It works as a retirement plan. Section 222 in Florida protects you. Most states have that protection. Any IRA, 401k, any kind of a qualified retirement plan, annuity is going to be protected from lawsuits. And it's a great way to protect your money. And the other thing is, I talk to clients all the time about it. I say, look, nobody knows about this money. When they come in my office and we set up an annuity, me, the wife, the husband, and the insurance company. That's all it knows about your money. Nobody can. I've been doing this for 40 some years. I've never had one person, knock on wood, ever frauded with any insurance product ever. Ever. Why? The insurance companies are pretty savvy at what they do. You know, they
Protecting
don't,
you.
yeah, they protect it. They don't let your money get ripped off. Okay. Banks, every day somebody's frauding your bank account. I've had my bank account frauded over the years, twice. And I don't know if have you had that happen?
No, I haven't.
So, you know, the insurance companies know how to protect your money. It's just a further lining. If you're worried about your money being ripped off by some person in Indonesia, you know, annuities can do that for you. Or let's say you have a lawsuit, okay, and you want to protect your money. An annuity will protect your money just as well as an IRA, 401k. Any qualified retirement plan will do that.
Great point.
The other thing is here too, 32% of people, this is really interesting, felt wrong about taking money out of their retirement account. 32%.
Interesting.
1 in 3 people feel bad taking money. They don't feel right about taking money out of their retirement account.
That's sad, honestly.
Well, because they've saved their whole life, you know?
Yeah.
So it's important to figure this out. I'm going to stop talking in a minute. The other fear is fear of regret. You know, they regret spending too much money or spending too little. So here's the deal. You got a fine line. Do you we've talked about this many times. You have a 401k, and they're the worst at this. 401ks do not distribute money to you in retirement unless you know what you're doing. Okay. If you're taking out $6,000 a month and the market goes down 6,000, you took out 12,000, right? So the problem is it's a fine line. How much money do you take out? Now, if the market's doing well, take out 12,000 a month, but you're going to have months where you need the 12,000 or 6,000 and the market goes down. Your money's going back and forth. So that's why these annuities work for the safety reasons as well, you know?
If you'd like to talk to Joe and put a plan of action together for your retirement, give Jupiter Joe a call, 561-743-0999. You can book your free, no-cost consultation. Go to jupiterjoe.com. You can book your free appointment there.
Right. So the next article, and by the way, I got this on fidelity.com. So for anybody out there listening today, you know, or watching us on YouTube, you know, you say, where does this guy get his information from? Fidelity.com, right? And this is interesting. To retire comfortably, plan participants say they need 1.2 million. Now I hear these numbers all the time, and it is so stupid, folks. The number you have at retirement is what you have at retirement.
Yeah.
Okay, if some kid on YouTube says to you, you need $40 million to retire, or, you know, Susie Orman, you need $10 million to retire, it's bogus. It doesn't mean anything. The number you have is the number you have. How many clients come into us and they have $250,000?
Right.
How are they going to get another million? They're going to invent it? They're going to get another job that pays them significant amounts of money and they don't have to worry about it? No. The number you have is the number you have. 1.2 million sounds amazing, right?
Yeah.
But not everybody has that. In fact, less than 1% of the public have $1 million or more in their retirement plan. That means 99% of the people out there have less than $1 million in their retirement plan. Most people we see are 250, 300, 400, 500,000. Whatever you have, it is. It is what it is. You got to work with that number, right?
It seems like everybody out there, like even me and Dana's ages, it's like, you know, you think that people have more money than they actually do.
Sure. But we're talking about retirement assets. We're not talking about assets in general, because you could have a house worth $1 million.
Right.
Unless you put that money in a retirement account or distribute it into income, it's not a retirement account, right? We're talking about 401k, IRA, annuity that has $1 million or more. Less than 1% of Americans, 1 in 100, have that number. Now, we have clients that have $1 million. We have clients that have $2 million. We have clients that have more than that. But the average person we're seeing have 150, 250, 300. Whatever your number is, your number is. I would love you to come in with 1.2 million, everybody. It doesn't work that way, right? It is what it is. So realize that, you know, whatever the number is, you just got to be careful with it. Now, this is interesting. 69%, and I love these statistics because you got to understand, when they put these numbers together, this is, you know, they did a survey on people. 70% of people believe rising healthcare, utility costs, insurance costs, and housing costs have put retirement out of reach for their generation.
Oh, wow.
You know, think about South Florida, how much home insurance is. You know, now you don't have that problem. You don't have a home right now, but you hear people come in and complain, I'm paying $8,000 a year for home insurance. My car insurance, they just said the average cost in Florida is $3,000 a year for car insurance, home insurance, car insurance.
HOA.
Look, I wrote in my book years ago, we live in a debt-driven society. That means you never get out of debt no matter how much money you have. You're always going to have utilities. You're always going to have insurance of some sort, right? You can't, unless you go without insurance, that's something different. So understand that you're going to have these bills, fixed bills all the time. So what does that mean? You need fixed income.
Right.
Where do you get fixed income? Social Security, annuities, and a pension plan, right? Nothing else I know of, period. Even if you win a lawsuit, that's an annuity. That's going to pay you a fixed amount of money,
Right.
So why do they do that? Think about that. So you have fixed guaranteed income to pay fixed bills.
Bills, yeah. They're always coming in.
There you go. There you go.
So you're tuned to the Jupiter Joe Money Show. You can check us out on YouTube, watch us in our studio here, and make sure you subscribe to our new shows that go on every single week, Wednesday, Thursday at 6 p.m., and also on Saturday mornings at 7:30.
Now, this is interesting. 33% of people report that their credit card debt is higher than their retirement savings.
Oh, man.
That's how bad it is for some people. 33%, 1 in 3 people say their credit card debt, what they owe to the credit cards, is higher than what they have for retirement savings.
Awful.
It's pitiful. Credit cards are the worst. If you have a credit, I always tell people this, look, how do you prepare for retirement? Get out of debt first. I tell people, I won't say how many people come in, several people in the last couple months come in, younger folks, and they said, hey, Joe, we owe this much money in credit card debt. And I say, well, how much money do you have in the bank? Well, we have this much money. I said, well, you want to make 25% of your money? Yeah, we do. Okay, take that money there and pay that money there.
Yeah.
Start out by having a zero balance and then start building your money. This article also says that most people are reluctant to even save 10% a year of their income. Think about it. You're making $50,000 a year. You should be saving $5,000 for retirement, okay, or rainy day or emergency fund, whatever you want to call it, right? $100,000, $10,000 a year. So this is significant things. These reports, take them for face value, but try to incorporate and change what you're doing wrong right now. I would say anybody out there listening, the next article that we're going to talk about is having a plan of action, and how many people don't have a plan of action.
Yes.
Okay. I always say, when you come to us, you're going to get a plan of action. Why? We're going to tell you how much money you can put in, how much money you will get per month for the rest of your life and the rest of your spouse's life. And then anything left over goes to the kids. That's a plan of action. It tells you exactly what's going to happen versus, hey, I got an IRA. I got a 401k. Who knows what's going to happen? And that's the God's honest truth. I'm subject to the market. I'm subject to inflation. I'm subject to whatever happens politically. If you don't think politics plays a part in your money, I've been talking about that for 20 years now. When I used to do seminars, I used to talk about, does politics hurt your retirement plan? Of course it does. It plays a part, good or bad,
We've also had clients come in who, they've had an advisor in the past, and you always talk about having a second, a third opinion. And it's not that, the advisor is bad, but it could be that just bad advice.
Well, so I had a client in my office yesterday, and we called Fidelity. Now, Fidelity is a very good company. I will never talk bad about them. They're a good company. However, this is funny. So we were transferring money out of Fidelity, out of a 401k, into an annuity with us. So the guy that takes the call transfers us to the annuity department and wants to sell us annuity.
Oh, really?
With Fidelity, right. Now, Fidelity, unfortunately, the annuities they offer clients, and I'm just telling you my experience level with them, is that they sell the wrong annuities to clients. They may say, well, how is that possible, Joe? They're Fidelity. Yes, they're Fidelity. They're selling immediate annuities in many cases to clients. I haven't sold a client an immediate annuity since probably 2000.
Oh, wow.
Okay? They're outdated. Nobody sells immediate annuities anymore because the income rider has replaced that. So you have income for life, not for a period of time.
Oh.
So be very, very careful when you talk to Fidelity about annuities. Yes, they sell annuities, and I have that discussion with clients all the time, but they don't sell them. They have an outsource, and the outsource that sells them only sells specific annuities. Why am I boring you to death about this? Because it's important. Even the people you may think know about this stuff may be giving you the wrong stuff. So getting an advisor that knows this stuff is a big deal.
I think that's what builds confidence. It's just like with paying off your credit card, having a zero balance, getting advice from you.
Yeah.
Looking up fidelity.com articles. These are things that build your confidence to be able to get into retirement.
Yeah, you gotta know what you're doing and understanding how your money works. My sister, I love my sister Carolyn. She's my older sister, and me and your mom were talking last night. She emails me. She says, I wrote her a life insurance policy like 30 years ago. She still has it, right? Mm-hmm. And she says to me, I need to update my trust in a text. Mm-hmm. I said, Carolyn, what are you talking about? Update your trust? I don't do trust. She says, oh, well, just, whatever that does. So I call her and I said, what are you talking about here? She's talking about changing her beneficiary, but she doesn't know the terminology. So she calls it a trust.
Right.
It's a life insurance policy with a beneficiary.
Right.
So people just don't know. And I love my sister to death, but sometimes, there's a problem with communication, and you're never going to know everything with anything. That's the way I feel about things.
It's almost like a journey. I mean, it's a learning journey. And once you kind of get the answers to some of these basic questions, right, things kind of make more sense and they click.
Why does this show take us, 25 minutes to talk about this stuff? Because it ain't easy. Nobody's gonna teach you this stuff in 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And if they do, you probably don't want to deal with that particular person, right? Mm-hmm. This is a real good article from Fidelity.com. 88% of free retirees think about retirement income, but only 50% lack an updated plan. Okay, so 88% think they need income,
and they do. Yeah,
they know they do, but only 50%, don't have any kind of updated plan. They haven't updated it. So 45% of people, like half, your wife, my wife, your mom hates percentages when I talk percentages. She just doesn't like percentages. The bottom line is with this stuff, a lot of people don't have a plan of action, right? That's the bottom line, okay? 1 in 4 Americans don't even know how their expenses are going to be paid in retirement. They know Social Security is going to be there, and if they have a pension, but that's it, So understanding that you need a plan of action is extremely important. Go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about Mom. We used to go shopping a lot at TJ Maxx and, how they have all the discounts at Bloomies.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be 20%, 30%. We'd get our calculators out and she likes the dollars. So that's what I remember with Mom. She doesn't like percentages, but when she knows the dollar amount.
Yeah. She used to walk around with me in the store and say, what's 20% off of this? What's 40% off of that? That's how, but she didn't want to do the calculator. Yeah. This is interesting, talking about exactly the topic we're talking about, advisors. Advice is a confidence differentiator. They're talking about in here that 77% of people versus 47% of people that have an advisor do better than one without an advisor.
Makes sense.
In fact, most people that are out there listening to the show probably don't have an advisor. Okay.
Right.
Either A, they think they're too expensive. B, they think they're a know-it-all. Okay. Or C, they just don't want to deal with somebody. They've done it this long and they're going to go on their own. Right. And I think that's the worst thing you can do. Go it on your own. Have some type of an advisor that gives you some advice. And I'm not talking about your neighbor. And I'm not talking about your brother-in-law or your sister-in-law. I'm talking about people who know something. Get the advice that's important to you and then make an educated decision. I mean, I learned that myself with many things, a closing on a house. Mm-hmm. There's always something that comes up. Now, in South Florida, you don't need an attorney to close a property. You go to a title company, right? But they're an attorney. But you're not going to get legal advice from those people unless you hire your own attorney. Now, this may sound complicated. It's not. But I've always had a closing attorney so that if any legal problems come up with the title, that it's not clean and clear, they take care of it. I don't have to worry about it. Because you could buy a house in South Florida, the title is not completely clear and clean, and you owe a bill. That's on. And let's say there was a prior personal mortgage for $25,000 that prior homeowner borrowed $25,000. It happened to us.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it happened to us. We were going to a closing, and luckily our attorney said, "Hey, there's a note on here, a promissory note that you owe somebody $25,000." Oh yeah, don't worry about that. He said, "No, we need it in writing." So we had to get that person on the phone, have them sign a document that said that they're releasing the terms and they don't know the debt, because otherwise we assume it.
Oh my God.
Then you say, well, what does that have to do with insurance, Joe, and annuities and retirement? A lot, because you don't know what you don't know, right?
So pay for the advice.
There you go.
And make sure that it's done right.
There you go. There you go. And education, the reason we supply people with books and brochures and shows and radio is because this stuff is not simple. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody tells you it is simple. Look, I can tell you a story. We were moving down here. This is probably 25 years ago. And I had a guy, I was going to get a mortgage. I needed a mortgage at that time. And I was going to get a mortgage. And I kept saying to the guy, hey, listen, how do I know that this is going to get approved? I'm moving from New York down here. The guy kept saying, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay, like I was talking to Tony Soprano, right? Don't worry about it. And I go, listen, I am worried about it. Finally, what happened was he didn't get it approved because he didn't file the right paperwork. We went to another bank, mortgage department, and it was approved in a day. Okay? So whenever somebody tells you don't worry about it, start worrying.
Right,
okay?
right.
I never say that to people because the deal is what the deal is. We try to do everything that we tell you we're going to do, and we do. If there's a snag, we're going to tell you up front.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking we don't run into any snags, but every once in a while, if something comes up, it's a transfer or whatever, we never tell somebody don't worry about it because we're gonna do the deal for you and make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's important, especially because we have resources here. And that's important.
Well, we work with the largest insurance companies in the world. Let's be honest. There really isn't. I don't think there's any company I cannot get unless it's a specialized company that does something we don't do. But we have every major carrier out there. What does that mean to you? We're not pushing products from one carrier. We're showing you what's best for you, and then you can choose which one has the benefits that you need for your money, whether you want an income rider, whether you want an income doubler, whether you just want a fixed annuity, whether you're rolling over an annuity for a better term of an annuity. We have those options for you,
Even, just thinking about older 401ks or IRAs. We're able to help people find those lost, forgotten.
So let's talk about that. We had somebody in our office this week, and they actually drove from Fort Myers over to Jupiter to see us. And Twice. And this person came in, and I didn't have any appointments after her. And I said, we're just going to take our time. We're going to go through everything. So we got to talking, and we started talking about Florida treasure hunt. And it's a lost funds that are in Florida. I've used it myself. Kathy Green has used it. You looked, but you didn't find anything,
no.
right? Okay. And I put her name in. I put her address in. We did it on together over the computer. And we found her $600.
Yep.
$600. She said, what? That's crazy. Out of nowhere, $600 found money. So if you don't know about it, you don't have $600 in your pocket, right? You go home and you don't, the government has $600 in your money. This happens a lot. People listen to me. You know what you know, and you know what you don't. Whatever you don't know, you don't know. It's that simple. It sounds stupid, but it's true,
So if you're ready to talk to Joe, give us a call, 561-743-0999, and make sure you book your free no-cost appointment at jupiterjoe.com.
Let's just talk about that for a moment. I was coming in today. I was thinking about this on the way in, and one of the things I think that's important for people to understand, when they call us, there's no obligation. You call me, let's get into business. Let's talk about what your goals are. Let's talk about how old you are, what you want to do with the money, where your money is. That's a phone call. If you come in, we do the same thing personally, but we're going to go into a little more depth with you and time. We give you 45 minutes to an hour. We're going to talk to you about whatever topics you want to talk about, and hopefully we can help you with what you do. Then if you decide you want to move your money or do something, we take the time to start moving that money, and it's a process. It's going to take anywhere from 7 to 10 days, maybe a little longer depending on where your money is. So we're with you through the whole process, and you do most of the processing for us.
And I think what's nice too is you get a free book.
Yeah.
You get our nice package to go.
Yeah, some
Got
freebies.
Some freebies.
Yeah, and we do that as a service. We let people know that we're just not the average company out there dealing with clients, retirees. We're here to stay. We're here to help you, and we're here to make you money. It sounds cliche, but it's not. It's really a thing that we do for clients. I used to do seminars, and I used to end it with, "Look, we make millionaires," and we do. I mean, think about it. In the old days, we did a lot of life insurance, and we would, if you wanted to leave your family a large lump sum of money, nothing did it better than life insurance. But you can do the same thing with annuities. If you're so inclined to leave your son or daughter, we had a client in yesterday who did that, two grandsons, and leaving them a lump sum of money. we can do that, So give us an opportunity to earn your business. Let us show you what we know about this stuff. And if you have a question about anything pertaining to retirement, or you just have a comment, we get those too.
Financial advice, anything.
Give us a call and let's see if we can help you out, okay?
Thanks so much for listening to the Jupiter Joe Money Show. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.